6 years ago, my wife woke up one day and decided, we're gonna declutter our home. And I'll be honest, that scared the crap out of me. My whole life, I've always been someone who's really simple with the things that they own. I never owned a ton of stuff, but everything that I did have, I kept for a really long time. Even when it was like basically falling apart, I would do anything I could to just keep the things that I own. So when my wife tells me that she wants to declutter our home, immediately I go into a little bit of panic. Like, what does that mean about my stuff? It's always scary as being the partner or the spouse, because when you get into marriage, it's like, your things are my things. But I'm like, no, my things are my things. And on top of that, I didn't really want to do the work of decluttering. I mean, let's be honest, it can seem really overwhelming to have to declutter a bunch of stuff and box it and make piles and donate. It just seemed like a lot. And I really wasn't sure how this was going to affect our life in the long run. Would this mean that we have to be in a smaller home, or do we have to go radical into a different lifestyle that might be constrictive at times? I had all these things going through my mind, but I knew that I had to be supportive to my wife, but I wasn't really sure how to do that. So along the way, I've learned what not to do, and also ways on how to be that supportive spouse. So I want to give the what not to do's and share the mistakes that I've made along the way, and then give you what to do to be a supportive spouse to somebody who wants to declutter their home. So the first thing not to do when your spouse or partner wants to declutter, don't be defensive. What we've got to realize is that this journey that they're going on has to do with them. It's about the way that they want their home to feel. It's about the way that they want their life to become. And you don't have to feel threatened that, oh, you're going to get rid of all of my things. We just have to realize that sometimes our spouses and our partners, they're on their own journey. Even though we're together, we're all experiencing life in our own way. You're always going to be able to have a say in your belongings. Like, if you have the conversation, you set up the rules and how you want things to go, you will always have a say. So you don't have to feel like my stuff, the things that belong to me, are in jeopardy. And just know it's just a blip in your journey as a couple. You don't want to make it a negative experience. I've made the mistake in a few different experiences in our life as a couple, me and my wife, where I made it a negative experience, or I just brought a negative energy, and it was just a small piece of our life, but we kind of carry that along with us. You know, it could be a small experience that you go through, a season, but if you go into it with like negative emotions and a negative perspective, even if you get past it really soon and it's no longer a part of your life, you kind of have that bad, bitter taste in your mouth. At least the spouse does. So what you want to do is be open, but have boundaries. This just goes back to having that conversation. You guys figure out, what are the things that you want to declutter? Or what are the things mostly, what is off limits? Like, I'm just not ready. Maybe in the future, I might consider decluttering this one thing that I own, but right now, I'm not ready to do that. And you know, it doesn't ask to hurt your spouse why they want to do this in the first place. Figuring out what are the things that are motivating them to declutter the stuff that you guys own and declutter parts of your life that you felt like you'd always hold on to. It doesn't hurt to just have those conversations and just be calm. Again, it goes back to not being that spouse that kind of creates that fear factor in the home or that negative energy. You don't want to be that spouse, that partner, your wife, your husband comes up to you and they're like, hey, I want to get rid of this one thing. And then but they're kind of scared because you might flip and go off the handle. Be someone who's calm and can have a conversation and talk about the things that you may or may not want to get rid of. You know, this brings me back to a time when we first started decluttering about 6 years ago. And I've told this story a few times, but like, I had these trophies. Playing baseball was such a huge part of my life, and I did it since I was a kid. And I held on to these trophies in a box that we put tucked away in the corner of, you know, in those townhouses under, you have a closet that's kind of under the staircase. And I never looked at those trophies, and they had dust and pieces of them were breaking. And it's like, why are you holding on to these? But I felt like I needed to hold on to them. I was like, I want to show my kids and I want to put them somewhere. But all those years, I never put them anywhere. So they were just collecting dust. And I kept saying no. And my wife wasn't pushy. She was like, okay, if you want to hold on to them. But then one day, she just asked again, and the timing was right. I had a nephew who was like, I want your trophies. I was like, why? But I ended up giving them to him. And it was such a freeing experience and I loved it. And it was something really exciting about doing that. I don't know why I wasn't like a super minimalist, but I just did it. And I was like, man, I don't need to hold on to stuff. And that really helped me in my own personal decluttering journey. I learned how I can let go of stuff and I can have a much more simple life. And that was exciting for me. The second thing you don't want to do when your spouse wants to declutter, don't get in their way. When they're in a decluttering mood, just let them go at it. Don't supervise. Don't be condescending about the stuff that they're looking at or decluttering. Just let them go at it. I can't tell you how many times that I let Carlene just like go at it. There will be times where I'm like, our house is great. And then she just gets the inspiration to declutter. And then she's going hard in a closet and she's like, bam, 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 all this stuff. And you know what? I'm like, hey, you're feeling it, then go for it. I'm not gonna be like, why are you doing that? Or why are you looking at that stuff? Like, you don't wanna be that type of spouse who gets in their way, who kind of feels like you're holding them back from what they wanna do. What I would suggest doing is be part of the process. Now, this doesn't mean that you have to declutter with them for hours and going through every single item with them, because maybe you're just like, nah, I don't want to do that at all. That can be helpful to go through the whole process with them, but maybe that's just not you. So instead, maybe you just come back whenever they're done and they've made like two piles, like stuff I want to get rid of, stuff I want to keep. And you can just have some input at that point. And what you can also do is just when they're done and you guys are looking at through some of the stuff that you're gonna get rid of or keep, talk about the memories. Talk about the memories that you have with certain things. I know for me and Carlene, there have been things that we've gotten rid of that we're just like, wow, I can't believe we went through that season of life. So there are clothes that we got rid of, baby clothes of our daughter, of our son, and it's like, man, I can't believe like all those little memories. Remember whenever they went up the slide for the first time in that? Remember whenever she like pooped through her pants in that one? Like it's just like fun memories to think about together, and it's just a way to connect and make the experience more meaningful and less of a burden. You know, you want it to just kind of feel like, hey, we're going through these things that, you know, bring us a lot of memories, and this is a part of our life that, hey, I want to keep, or this is a part of my life that I'm ready to let go of. And if you do that together, I just think it deepens your connection with one another. So just find ways to be a part of the process. It doesn't need to be a huge burden on you. If you're the spouse who's just being supportive of the other one, just make it easy. So this third one, I want to put a little bit more emphasis on this, for real. Don't be judgmental. It's really easy to start judging your partner, whether they start anything, a new hobby, a new job, a new journey, minimalism, decluttering, because maybe you have a history with your partner. Maybe they start things and they stop, or maybe they just go way too hard on things and get obsessed with it or something like that. And you have all these like, you know, past experiences that are making you feel a little bit worried about your partner or your spouse starting to declutter. But just try your best not to be judgmental during this process, because they can feel it. And don't be judgmental of the things that are inspiring them. You know, they might start watching a bunch of Instagram influencers who are minimalists and decluttering. They might watch a bunch of YouTube videos like this one or some of the other ones that we post on how to declutter, and it gets them really excited. Maybe there's couples that your spouse is looking up to and like, hey, look at what they did and look how they decluttered their home and I want to do the same. Like, don't be too pessimistic and having that negative energy during the process. You don't want to be judgmental, because I've made mistakes on judging my wife on some of the new things or new hobbies or new things she wants to start. And I can tell you from experience that really crushes their spirit. It defeats them. And whether you want to say like, well, you shouldn't be affected by what I say. I mean, you're their spouse. You're the person that they care about probably most in the world. You don't want to be that negative source of energy when they're looking for some type of affirmation or support during that time. Instead, be curious. The best thing that you can do is just ask the question, like, what is motivating you to do this? So why do you feel like you want to get rid of these things? Ask what you can do to help them with their vision for your home and your guys' life. Maybe there's some things that you're just like, there's no way I'm doing that. Like, I'm absolutely not decluttering this or doing this one thing or starting this challenge. But maybe there are some things that you are willing to do, that you are willing to sacrifice, that you are willing to be a part of or declutter and let go of. You never know. As long as you're open, I'll be honest, like there's been so many things that I thought I would be never open to, and I ended up, my wife will say this, like I'm more minimal than her now. I was like, I would never consider myself a minimalist. I never even thought about watching the Minimalist documentary. She did. I never thought about starting to declutter our home. She did. But look at us now. Like, you never know. You might really fall in love with this type of lifestyle, which I did. And so ask yourself the question, like what part of what they're doing could help me in my own life? As I just mentioned, I never thought that I'd become a minimalist, but after we started decluttering our home and I started to see the changes and I started to see that the way that routines felt easier with the kids, when I started to see like cleaning the house didn't feel as much of a burden, when I started to see like it didn't take me so much time to get ready because I didn't have millions of clothes options, and I just started to adopt a simpler lifestyle, a simpler way of thinking. It really changed my life, and it might change yours if you just kind of go along with it with your spouse. Doesn't mean that you have to change who you are. Doesn't mean that you have to declutter a bunch of your things or feel pressure that you have to do anything that you're not comfortable with yet. I will say my wife was very easy with me during the journey. I was not always like somebody who was like ready to let go of stuff. Some people are like, just throw everything out. I did that with a lot of things, but there were some things that I really had a hard time letting go of. And you know what? I would venture to say that if you're the spouse who's not the one interested in decluttering, I'm sure your spouse will give you the grace and say like, okay, if you don't want to get rid of that, that's fine. Totally okay with it. But still ask yourself, what part of this could I get some benefit from? This next one will be just what to do. So have fun with it. Just remembering like, look, this is your spouse's journey that they're trying to do in your home, in your family's life. It doesn't really have to deeply impact you too much. Like I said, having those conversations, having those boundaries, deciding together what you guys are open to decluttering and not decluttering. Don't take it all too seriously. I mean, even if you get rid of something and end up realizing, man, I really kind of wish I had kept that, or man, I should have never got rid of that. You can always get it back. You can always buy it again. You can always find something to replace it. The point of all of this is still learning how to know, like, you don't need as much as you think. Just do your absolute best to be supportive to your spouse during this process. And if you like this video, you'll definitely like this one about the things that I, as a guy and husband, only own one of. We love you guys. We'll see you in the next video.